Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm your other host, Mark.
In each episode, Mark and I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching in the foundation and youth development phases. We will share our thoughts, ideas and experiences, and whenever possible include guests so we can get their insights and opinions too. Thanks for listening and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hello Mark, how are you doing?
Very good, Scott. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all, thank you, Mark. So for this episode, we've got a special guest with us.
Yes.
Who's already here, and to cut corners and save some time, we're going to go straight in with our special guest.
Excellent.
A Christmas special guest.
Yes.
Not that he's in a Christmas Santa outfit or anything.
It's not Father Christmas.
No. Just as good though.
Yeah.
We're going to do a topic, I think, which actually in some ways is quite festive because it's about sharing and giving and supporting each other. So we're going to talk about mentorship, which is something we wanted to cover for a while now. And the perfect guest for us was you, Robbie, to be honest with you. It was you. So we were keen to find a time to get you on to cover this topic. Obviously, having spoke with you a few times with what we're doing with our club and stuff and what you do outside of your main job, we just thought you'd be the perfect person to kind of cover this and go through some of the questions that we have and share some of the experiences you've had in mentoring with our listeners, if that's okay.
Yeah, fantastic.
But first things first, for those that don't know you, Robbie, will you be happy to give us a bit of a summary about, a very brief one, about your background and what you've done football-wise? And we'll pick it apart over the next half an hour to an hour or so. Is that all right?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So I suppose I'm the same as many. The dad that turned up to the first training session, helped out putting out some cones, and then when the decision of who was going to coach the team didn't step back in line with everyone else and ended up being selected, and it starts from there, doesn't it? So obviously then went through and did my badges and took the team. So I've got a team that started with under 8s and now we're under 15s, and then along the way picked up some experience in helping others, started mentoring at work, and then an opportunity came up after my youth module 1 to go and do some mentoring for the FA. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and that's kind of my journey so far.
Yep.
In terms of where I am in coaching and mentoring.
So that's at a grassroots club.
Yep.
Yep. And you've taken those players from under 8s to under 15s.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a journey, right?
It is a journey.
Some changes there then.
Yeah, like we were saying before, it's all about where you are in your journey and the knowledge that you have at the time.
Yeah. And
there's, as we do, reflect.
Yep.
When you look back, you do things a little bit differently. But that's all part of it.
100%.
Yeah. So it's you're in the serious part of under 15s now, then, are you? That's the competitive football now.
It is competitive.
Yeah.
And my values are still consistent in terms of equal playing time, and it's still development football for me.
And that's the conversation we always have, actually, because I think you go from under 11s playing 9-a-side football where it's not competitive, you go to under 12s where it's competitive, and all of a sudden coaches think they've got a licence to be doing it becomes a competitive game. When in theory, you're only kind of 3 months on, right, from when you're under 11s over the summer break. There's no change, right?
Yeah.
And even with under 15s, you've got they're only the boys or girls that you're coaching are only 14 years old.
Yeah. And
that's the important thing to remember.
I think sometimes it's that word competitive. I have a proper issue with it, don't I?
Yeah,
I know it sounds really silly, but to me, I think it's the wrong word. Because for that very reason, you can give the coaches a license suddenly when you put the word competitive in, then to kind of almost neglect any of the development stuff and let's go straight. I've got an excuse now to focus on the result, where we've played games at under 6s where they are very competitive.
Yeah.
And being a sport, I don't think you take that away from it. I think that's absolutely fine. I think the question for us as coaches is how much we're willing to sacrifice development opportunities for the result of a game.
Yes.
But you can't say it's competitive. All sport's competitive, otherwise it's not a sport by its very nature. And I think that's the difference there. And even that's a scale. We could preach what we think is right around development decisions over results, but actually someone else might have a different version of that. Or the game itself might mean actually you've got to make slightly different choices because you want to stay competitive in a game against maybe a tougher team or something, which I think is probably okay. I think the slight danger is that with the under 11s, under 12s change, it gives coaches that license to be able to say, right, now it's about results. So strongest players are in game time, we're going to have more direct, more set positions. It's like, well, hold on a minute. 3 months ago it was okay to do different things and now it's not. And what's really changed? I don't think everyone's like that, but that is the danger. If you use the word competitive and non-competitive rather than actually child-centered sport and maybe a sliding scale as to how you move that focus from the results to development.
Yeah, definitely. I think also it depends on your players in your environment. So, and why they're there.
Yeah.
So you may have a team that, that do really want to strive to, to get better. You may have some there or a team that's just more social, and they're there just for the fun, and actually it's just about them being with their friends.
So true, yeah.
And you may have a mix of both, which is probably where my team is.
Yeah.
So, the challenge for me is to keep developing and keep them interested, and the ones that want to really strive and move forwards, but not go overboard, that it's not fun and it's not social for the ones that are just there to
it's a good
enjoy their time.
I think on the last episode we spoke about the triangle, didn't we, of having the parent, the coach and the club and the athlete in the middle, and it wasn't so much about what the message is between each one, but make sure they've got the same message, so you're on the same page. So like you say, if you're about results, then maybe that's okay, as long as everyone agrees that it's about results, including the athlete in the middle there, but certainly the club, the coach and the parents are on the same page. Maybe that is okay. And if you're about more development, well, that's okay too, as long as everyone's on the same page again. It's the issues can happen when everyone's on different places or different expectations.
Definitely. And it's that understand your players, and understand their drivers. And I suppose being a grassroots coach, and the beauty that we have maybe in doing that is that we can see the journey, and we can see, we know the player inside out by the time they're 13, 14, 15.
How much, Robbie, does the parents' influence change over that period? So we've started with the younger ones, and we've had them, whether our older boys now under 11s, with those for under 6 to under 11s, I guess, but the parents are obviously still part of the process there because they're still kids. Does it change more as they get to under 15s, or do the parents still stay involved?
I think it's the environment that you create, and if you create a team culture and involve the parents and communicate with the parents and socialise with the parents, but make them part of it and encourage their support, then they stay engaged. So, for my personal team, we'll have most games a parent for each player.
Right. Yeah.
And they're still engaged.
Engaged in the process.
And it's their time as well.
Yeah.
When they get together and they have a coffee and they have a catch up, they enjoy it together.
Yeah.
Well, you see with the under 11s, don't you? They're still all there, aren't they?
Yeah,
and they're all there, rocking up to all the games. Even at training, they're all there watching us still, aren't they? You kind of think, will it fade away? But it doesn't look like it's going to, does it?
And some of them even they meet up in the evenings, go out and things like that for dinners and all that kind of stuff. So it is good socially. It is good, and it's obviously great for the kids. But do you just one more question before we get back to mentoring? So at what point do you then start interacting directly with the players in terms of arranging matches and things like that? Because at the moment, the interesting thing, under 7, under 8s, under 11s, we speak to the parents in terms of these are the arrangements, is your son available, this is where we're meeting. At what point is it then you start connecting directly with the players for these things?
So I'm under 16s. I've missed a year there
Yeah,
already. But
we haven't been here a year.
No, no,
It
don't be
feels
there
that
long. We might go into next year. So just this year I've experimented with an app, Spond app.
Yes.
And the players have started to add themselves to that.
Right.
So they can have more visibility of what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. I still go through the parents. They've still got visibility, and I'll still make sure that the parents are the ones that are clicking to say availability and stuff.
Yeah.
But the lads are now starting to add themselves to it, and just they can see what's coming up. What games are coming up, and because obviously they're engaged, they want to,
of course,
see who else is playing.
And that's good for their own growth and development, right? As well as taking some ownership of that stuff, as well as that's part of the whole football journey, isn't it? Is owning more of it as the years go by.
Yeah. Definitely.
Very good.
Just, I suppose, on a safeguarding aspect,
Yep.
that's what I recommend, is to have that. Make sure that it's all on one platform, where there's visibility for the parents, and you still confirm with the parents up until they're an adult.
Makes sense. Very good point.
And by the way, Spond is a great little app actually for organising matches and availability and things like that. We use it for the under 7s and the under 11s team use it as well. It's really, really good.
Under 8s, you both of you.
Under 8s, sorry, under 8s. Yeah, you can edit that bit out. Right?
Drinking.
You can edit those bits out. You're fine.
Okay, Robbie, mentoring. If that's okay, we're going to have a chat around that and get your views on it and things. Obviously, Mark and I have gone through the journey of being mentored, and we see its value and things. As a club, I know we've embraced it, certainly more over the last couple of years, and you've been part of that journey with us, which is great. I thought and this may be a bad first question, but Mark and I were talking about some questions to kind of start with. It was from your presentation that you did with us, actually, and I think it was a specific question, or it might have just been around the theme that we had, but it was more about what mentoring isn't. And I thought before we get into what mentoring is and all the stuff that comes with that, maybe it'd be worth just kind of ruling out some of the things that it actually isn't.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I suppose firstly, it's not training, it's not coaching. It's a journey that two people take together, and it's not led by the mentor. It's more of a collaboration. So that's the kind of, I suppose that's the key aspects of what it's not.
On that aspect, then, would you say, can some people have the perception that mentoring is going to be about kind of being observed and then being judged, almost being critically assessed, and it's very much the mentor overseeing the mentee? And would that be a wrong perception?
Yeah, certainly. So it's all about collaborative development and being supported, both ways, because it's a partnership. And as a mentor, you learn so much through the journey with each mentee you work with, because obviously people have different experiences. They see things through different lenses that you can learn from them. Yeah. Also, I think the main thing is that it's a supportive journey to a destination that is led by the mentee.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all like we say in terms of player-centered coaching. This is centered around that individual.
Yeah.
And their personal journey.
So would you kind of, when you first meet the person, would you kind of go in and ask what they want to get out of the mentoring experience? How do you kind of start that relationship when you first meet a coach then? Yeah,
I think the most important thing is building up rapport with the person. So the first kind of meeting that we have, it will just be a general talk around them as a person, where they are in their coaching journey, what they enjoy, how they would like to see the relationship, move forward. How can I support you? It may be, and it's different for every mentee,
sure.
Because they will have different needs.
Yes,
definitely about identifying strengths, and continuing to develop those, and then possibly looking at areas of development that they want to take forwards, and how we can guide and support that.
Okay. So before we get into maybe the nitty-gritty about how you kind of go about that, just some of the benefits then. I mean, we'll go into detail in a second or two, but from your experience of either being mentored or being a mentor, what are the benefits of having that relationship and going through that journey?
I think it's having someone who can identify your strengths, because as people, the first thing we'll do is look at our areas of development or what we'll perceive as weaknesses. And to have somebody actually say, you're really good at that, and then you reflect on it and think, oh well, actually I am good at that. Gives you builds your confidence, self-esteem, and then from there, someone who can guide you in terms of observing from another lens, to give you to open up your mind to other things, and see things in different ways for your own development. Again, it's very difficult to pinpoint, because everyone's journey is different. And when you meet with your mentee, they're on that journey, so it's just about understanding them first. That's
How important is it that the mentee is a voluntary part of that process? I mean, if you were given, for example, I know you go around and you help clubs out, you helped our club out. If someone said to you, we'd like you to work with this particular coach, but they're not on board, would that be something you would have reservations about, or would you need the coach to be on board with the process beforehand?
It certainly would. It's better. I suppose we do get coaches or meet with coaches that maybe have just been assigned, and that's still okay. Because once you build the rapport and you explain what the process is and the purpose, there's only a win. It's a win-win, if you like. There over the years there have been some more challenging,
inevitably, I guess you're going to get that, aren't you?
Behaviours, if you like. But again, it's just about building rapport and understanding, perhaps why that behaviour is happening, and then working it through with them.
And would you find sometimes maybe the more experienced coaches, you might meet a coach that's been coaching for 20 years or something like that, who probably been on quite a long journey themselves. They probably at this point where they may think they know everything or a lot. Would that be a kind of, are they those kind of particular coaches more challenging than perhaps a coach that's newer to the environment?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily whether it's the longevity of coaching or characters that you meet. They're all individual. There are certainly some that have got great knowledge and great experience, and I think it's just through the process tapping into that first and learning from them, self-esteem and understanding their journey, and then possibly looking at opening their mind to other areas. But again, it's so individual. It's really difficult to pinpoint.
It sounds like a bit of a craft. I mean, it can't be easy then. From as a mentor, you've got to have probably what skills do you think you need to be a good mentor?
Yeah. So firstly, I would say emotional intelligence in terms of understanding people. Rapport building has to be number one, because without that, it's impossible to change behaviours or have someone open up. Active listening, certainly, and then the other maybe football related ones would be obviously some knowledge and experience, and obviously experience of mentoring within football, so you can, when you come across challenges, then you've worked through one of those before and you can try different things. I suppose again it is similar in terms of coaching in that the more feathers that you can have in your cap that you can try and see how that works through, you've got more flexibility to try other things to see if they work as well.
I guess that way you can find the right solution to whatever the situation is you've got, if you've got more tools in the toolbox, as it were.
Yes, most definitely.
I can imagine it must be quite challenging. Maybe not now for you, because you've kind of got experience of doing mentoring for, I think you said 4 years or so. I'd imagine at the beginning it would have been quite challenging going into a certain environment and then seeing some kind of habits which you would think, this doesn't look right, or it kind of doesn't feel right, and you obviously don't want to give them the answers. It must be quite challenging to kind of get them to give you the answers rather than the other way around.
Most definitely. I think talking about Christmas, there's the whole thing around why do we eat turkey at Christmas? Why do we do it? Because we've always done it. Tradition and tradition. So, and I think that a lot of coaches talking about their journey, they would do things that their coach used to do with them when they were growing up, and why wouldn't you? Because they turned out all right, and I get that. Can certainly get that. Except obviously with further knowledge, they can see things in other ways and see how it will benefit the players even more. If
we were going to go on a mentorship journey with you, what would it look like? How would it start? And could you talk us through the process? If it was Mark and I and you were going to support us, what would that journey look like?
Yeah, certainly. So first of all, it would be understanding you as people. So understanding your background, your influences. So who's influenced you as a person, who's influenced you as a coach, maybe as a player, to really understand you in detail. And then from there, the whole purpose of mentoring is to move to an end goal. So at the right time, I like to work with the end in mind. So let's look at where we want to be and at what point do we want to be at that. And that may be longer than your journey together, but you may be able to help them along the way, and then they may find someone else who will take them on further. But then track it back. So what do you need? What do you need to be there? What resources do you need? And then how can I help? And it is as simple as that. But it is about goal setting. It's about committing together to regular meetings and setting some smart goals around what does it look like? How do we know we've got success? So then we can evaluate that as we go.
How early in the journey would you set the goals? I appreciate, again, I'm sure it depends on the individual, but is it something you try and do early on, like in the first few weeks, or would it be something you might even wait months to decide, or does it depend completely?
It depends on them and their journey, because it has to be led by them. But we'd probably talk, in the first few weeks around, what is it, from working together this season, how can I help you and where do you want to be? And then we can start mapping it out. Again, it's having a balance between maybe formal and informal, dependent on that individual, their confidence. If I was to turn up with a clipboard and start, observing straight away, and how does that...
Quite intimidating.
Yeah, how does it feel for that person?
Even someone who's experienced, I think that'd be quite nerve-wracking, wouldn't you? Being like, hold on a minute. Yeah. And also then you kind of maybe not being yourself a little bit, then you want to see the real person, don't you? And get a real feel for what they're like, not some show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And what support they need.
Yeah.
So how can I support you best? Would you like me to make some suggestions? Would you like me to observe?
Yeah.
Would it benefit to do some coaching together?
Well, that's my next question, really. I wonder how much of it is really you just observing, and how much of it is you kind of showing stuff. Well, we had a really good guy. I'm sure Tony won't mind me mentioning, but we had Tony from the FA come and mentor us a few years back, and he was excellent. And he was quite hands-on, wasn't he? He was quite involved in the session and stuff like that, and almost demonstrating, and then us kind of almost copying. It was more like doing one of the old FA level 2 kind of courses where you kind of see it and stuff in a good way. I kind of feel your approach is a bit different. I sense, and having spoke to you about this stuff, where it feels more like you probably guide more. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you kind of probably guide more. I'm sure you get involved as and when it's necessary too, but it feels more like it's that kind of guidance rather than demonstrations.
Yeah, it's a mixture.
Right.
I certainly would promote the guidance because it's their team, their environment. If I feel that they would benefit more from having feedback and then having an observation and then reflective practice afterwards, but then aiming to move that into the session, so reflection in the session when the time's right for that individual. And we've got the rapport that we can come up with some ideas during the session to, is this working? How could it work better? Those types of ideas.
I think that's generally how you learn. You learn, right? It's the experience of doing something and then getting feedback. That's how you really learn, or reflection. I think like the new level 2 and the UEFA B, you do a lot of practical kind of sessions, and you get kind of feedback, and you have in situ visits and things like that from the FA, kind of whoever's leading the course. And I think that's how you learn, really. It's the application and then getting that feedback and reflecting. Like if a coach, you were mentoring a coach and they asked you to put a session on, would you then encourage them to be part of that session, not just kind of stand back and look at you? Is that how you would?
So again, it's contextual.
Yeah.
But it would be okay. So for what purpose would you want me to do this session? What aspect of coaching is it specifically you'd like to focus on? So if it's planning, then can you come up with a session? And then talk me through it, and I can deliver it. That might be because the planning part is where they actually want some help, and then they want to see it. Or it might be I will plan with them or guide them to resources like England DNA, and then we'll co-coach. Personally, I think the more involvement they can have, if you like, on the grass and being part of it rather than just observing, the more they're going to get from it.
Yes,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Again, depends on the individual.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what about different tools that you may use then? Would it just be your observation, as in you watching and feeding back, or would you use video or anything else you would use, or would you get other people's contribution, whether it be parents or the players themselves, to feedback? How would it work in that sense?
Yeah, so the more feedback that you can get from more perspectives, the better. So it may be speaking with some of the parents, definitely speaking with the players as part of the session or after the session, talking about how they gain feedback from the players as well. Far too often, we're busy and we try and maximise the session, and at the end it's a quick well done, high fives, and away you go. Whereas maybe there's some value on spending a little bit more time at the end to actually what we started with and the outcomes, did we achieve those today?
Just cement that learning a little bit and just embed that journey, or even asking the players what they liked about the session and just getting their thoughts as well. I think we do a lot at the end where we give our player of the week kind of nominations and trophies for the hardest working player and things like that, but we don't ask them about the session. It could be a two-way process, can't it? And that can feed into your reflective practice then, can't it? And how you might change for next time.
There's other things that you can use, like videoing. Obviously, but it is very much about the coach and how comfortable they are with that, and where in their journey they are. There's other things we can do about miking up. So they can just listen
to the audio
at
least.
Have the audio and listen to that back. And there's other things. I suppose that the more evidence you can have So it might be that we're working on interventions, and actually the coach has identified, well, actually I want to improve them, make them more effective.
Yeah.
So it might be that when they go and do an intervention, I'm timing it, and then we can evaluate how long each of the interventions was, what was the outcome of that. So different techniques, but they would be in conjunction with the mentee to make sure they were happy, they were comfortable, and they understood the purpose of them.
The reason for doing it.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you kind of a little way down the road in terms of that, having that built up that rapport with the mentee before you start video. I mean, on mic, and then
Rock up on day one
rock
with
on
the mic, with a questionnaire to the parents.
Yeah, video. Put the pressure on straight away.
So, Robert, you mentioned interventions as a great example of where maybe someone like having a mentor could support and guide a little bit. What other areas? Something a coach that I think, it sounds all well and good, but how's he going to help me?
I think it's the whole plan, do, review. Certainly around the planning. So a lot of coaches, or a number of coaches, will say that that's an area that I need to improve. I think on balance, we need to also, consider for them, where does it fit into their life? Because if they're busy, they've got to do the best with the time they've got available. Again, have an appreciation of that, but actually looking at, okay, well, how can you make it? How can we guide to resources that might make that planning easier, but will make them more prepared for the session? In the session, it may be looking at their communication, so how they communicate with the players, their body language might be many different areas to consider. And then with the reviewing, it will be around good questioning at the end to help them self-reflect and identify what they're doing really well. It's the first thing, and then 3 stars and a wish is the kind of the frame that we'd look at. 3 good things that they're doing, and then 1 area of development. I think from a mentor's perspective, the most important thing is reflecting on ourselves in terms of how we can get the most impact with just the littlest tweaks to maintain confidence, self-esteem, because they'll be doing loads of things really, really well. But what is the one thing that if they focused on it, it would have the most amount of impact for them and their players? And I suppose that's the art.
And do you go through a process yourself, Robbie, where you kind of plan, do, and review? So before you meet up with your mentee, they might send you a session plan, so you go through that, review and then you're on the day, and then post that. Do you follow a similar kind of process?
Yeah, I do it in work. I do it with everything that I do. Always analysing. I suppose because of my experience, I can do it within sessions, and with somebody, but certainly after a session, and the benefits of that to then, again, I'm probably self-critical and think, I always go straight to I could have done that better, I could have done that better. But that's the natural, natural thing that we do as people. So having a mentor, for me, or somebody with a session to actually say what I'm doing really well is also beneficial for me.
Did you have a mentor first? Did you go through that process with the FA before you took on the role of being FA mentor? Did you go into this straight as an FA mentor?
No, straight in.
Right, okay.
Straight in, yeah. So hadn't had any kind of previous experience of the programme.
Yeah.
The training was really good, so it's quite intensive training when we first joined. And then I suppose throughout I've had unofficial mentors. Of course. Yeah. Other coach mentors that were on the programme before that I'd picked up and learnt from, and then Kev Green.
Yeah.
So he's like a mentor, to me, still now.
Not a bad mentor to have, Kev Green.
Not
sure.
bad, yeah.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
absolutely
Not
brilliant.
bad.
And did you feel comfortable then when you went out to do your early mentoring 3 or 4 years ago when you first started? I guess working with age groups you'd done yourself was probably okay. Did you have to work with age groups you hadn't done yourself already, or did you stick to the age groups that you were more familiar with from your own journey?
Yeah, no, it was a mixed.
Was it?
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was obviously the first few meetings and the first few moments of trying something new in this environment. It was nerve-wracking, of course. That said, once you start to build rapport with your mentee and you both understand that this is our journey together, and it's also being open as a mentee. I haven't got all the answers, And actually, I see that as a good thing,
Yeah.
positive thing, being open and honest.
Yeah.
I don't know that,
Yeah.
but I tell you what, how can we find out?
Yeah.
Or I'll go and find out about that. You go and find out about that, and we'll learn about this together. And I think that's key.
Yeah, I think that's even with coaching, right? You don't know all the answers even as a coach. So sometimes you have to go away and think about it, or you can have to come back the next week. You might get a question from a player that you think, oh, actually that's a good point, and you have to go away, think about it, and come back.
That's when it's the most fun, I think, sometimes as well, isn't it? Because you know you're learning as well, aren't you? There's nothing worse than doing things all the time that you already know. I think being challenged yourself keeps it interesting, right?
Definitely.
Obviously, the focus, I imagine, is probably training and having a well-run training session that's the most effective for the players. What about match day? How much does that come into the role, if at all? It's my first question.
Yep.
And my second question would be, if it does come into it, do you see a difference in coaches between training and match day?
Yes, you do. I suppose for some, it's more match day is more emotional.
Yeah.
Football is quite an emotional.
So you do
game.
cover both, then, do you? If you're supporting, you wouldn't be a case where only focus on the training and match days down to you. You could or would cut. Would you insist on covering both, or would you just
cover both? Because ultimately, with the coaching is then for the game.
Exactly.
So to see to see the journey for the players and for the coach as well.
Yeah.
So we do both.
So you'd observe both and you'd feedback and support around both. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is that then in practice? Because I can imagine that you probably do see a slightly different side of the training session, if you like, innit? So.
Yeah. Again, it's down to the individuals, so I can't put a blanket over it and go. Yeah,
name and shame.
Everyone's they all get emotional. But there is, it's a match, and
it's competitive.
It's the aim of the game is to put
an invasion
more,
sport.
Put more, put the ball in that net more than it goes in this net.
Yeah.
So
that's the basics.
Match day, I suppose. Again, it's where they are in their journey, understanding what they do at the moment and why they do it, encouraging player rotation, all the kind of standard things that we would expect or look for to develop the players best. It may be, we talked about the miking up, so if it's an area of development would be, actually I want to improve my instructions through to the players, because I feel like I'm shouting across something but they don't understand. That is very interesting because if you've ever experienced it, worth having to go yourself, definitely. Bit of self-reflection, because some of the terminology that coaches use, actually to a player, what does it mean? What does it actually mean? The self-reflection around how they communicate. What are they taking what they've learned or what they're learning in the sessions through to the game, and maybe what does the warm-up look like? Is that an extension of, the theme that they're working on at the moment, through to communication with the parents? So how are they involving the parents with the talk at the start, half times, and at the end of the game? Because if we can involve the parents and they understand what success is, actually success isn't about the number of goals. Success today is how can we play through to the midfield and into the forward. That's every time that happens, that's success for us. So can you encourage that today, parents?
On the match day then, would you be around with the coaches on that side of the coaches, or will you around the parent side, or will you work your way around and look at different angles and taking different parts of the game? How would you kind of normally work it?
Probably start with the coach.
Yeah.
Before the players get there, and talk about the game today, what their thoughts are, formations, what they can do for their warm up, and then just let them get on with it.
Yeah.
And observe. And then if there's something that we've pre-agreed that I'll observe, then I'll do that. Yep. But certainly try and get a 360, walk around and see it from the parent side. So again, so you can get appreciation from the coach, what match day is like for them.
Yeah.
And maybe the challenges that they're facing.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes, do you think you see the real person when you go along and do the mentoring for a match day? Do you think you see the real person when you're there, and as opposed to when you're not there? Do you think sometimes, perhaps, I'm not saying they're on best behaviour, but maybe they act slightly differently because they know you're there observing? Do you think you would see the real person? Yeah,
interesting question.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
At what point in the journey is this?
Yeah.
But once you've got that openness and trust and rapport, they should feel comfortable in feeling uncomfortable, if you like. If they're doing something different, and it's a bit of a challenge for them.
Well, for the first 10 minutes, you're probably right by that.
Once they can see the
last
3
minutes
goals
of the game, the true colours come shining through, don't they? You mentioned about that keeping the parents involved, and obviously a great point. And even though I fully support the way we set the pitch up now, because we're asked to, as I think it's an FA requirement, where we have the respect line on one side of the pitch, and parents stay that side, and coaches are the other side, and it makes sense 100%. It makes it more difficult to keep the communication between the coach and the parents, especially during the game, if you like, at the intervals, whether it's quarters or half times. Is there any tips around that, or is it a case of you've got to kind of do that maybe before the game starts and at the end of the game, because it is quite hard during the game to keep the parents in the picture?
Yeah, interesting. I suppose it depends. If you could have your water bottles all together in a cage or whatever, and when that whistle goes, you go over to that area of the pitch, then that could work. Just thinking out loud. I suppose it's that planning. It's that planning.
Because I see the value in it, and I think, my second point is around linking training and matches together. Having the parents be on the same page with regards to what you're looking at is a massive help, because if you can move it away from the outcomes, especially the result, I think that can be a huge advantage to the coach and the players, because suddenly the pressure's not so much about that, and actually just moving that ball, winning a tackle, or playing a good pass in a challenging way, or whatever the theme is. That can, the parents can see that and hopefully buy into that and see some value. But it's hard in games, because games change, don't they? And circumstances change and things, and it's hard then to stay with it and keep the parents focused on that if they're so far away. And by the time they get to 7 and 9 side pitches, 11 side, I mean, they're quite a distance away.
Yeah. So just again, some ideas to float around is, if there's individual challenges, making them aware of the individual challenges for that game, for their player, if you like, so they understand what's being asked of the player in terms of what success is. For that player during that game, so because that's going to be consistent, pretty much throughout the game.
We used to, I forgot about this, but we used to, must be on the under 8s with the older ones when they were younger. We used to give them challenges to take their parents. You remember?
That's right. Yeah, we did.
That was quite good.
There were some good practices back in those days. Right?
One or two little things sneaked in there, didn't they?
Some good.
But that's a way in which I guess you could get the message across to the player and the parent without having to necessarily see the parent. So we'd give them a little challenge for the game, and it may be, how many tackles can you win, or how many 1v1 battles can you, whatever it might be. But then when we would say before the game started, go and give that now to mum and dad, so they've got that, so they know what you're working on, and they can encourage you around that thing, so they can focus on that. So. And with the challenge, obviously individually, but they're linked as a collective through the team. So depending on where the player was playing at certain times.
Perfect. I think again, with most things in life, communication is key. And if you can get that communication right, then we're all looking at it through the same lens, rather than.
Outside of, sorry, Mark, are you going to say something?
No, I was just going to come back just to mentoring actually. But we got to save my question.
It was really well, following off that one there. It was just, you mentioned obviously the link between training and matches as being one of the things, and I do appreciate that every journey is different. But are there some consistent areas of development you kind of come across quite regularly on doing the mentoring role, where these are the more common problems, if you like, that you see some of us coaches that we could work on and improve on a regular basis? And I'm not saying like everyone has these, but from your experience, what would be the more common factors you think, actually, I know I can support you around these things? That'd be really helpful to
I think
we'd have a massive list, so don't worry about it. We'd have more, but
we can share that later. I think planning is a big one.
Go on, what do you mean by planning then? We'll go on to the others in a minute, but just so we know, because somebody's version of planning might be like, okay, I've thought about my session beforehand, but what do you mean by planning?
Yeah, so having a session plan of some description. So there's an order. I suppose the most important thing of this is having it themed so that there's constant learning of the same thing throughout that session. And if you can link it, then obviously when they're sitting down with the players at the start, you can say that this session we're working on this. And then, as a coach, we can then, what is success? Well, actually, it's if they understand this at the end. So we can actually see that, and we can get feedback from the players. Tell me about this session. Tell me what we've learned today.
I think it's so important when the players finish the session, they know what it's been about. However much progress may or may not have been made, it's important they understand what they were working on for that session. I think it's so important, and so many times you see players come back and they don't really know what they were working on through the session. It's like, well, at least you know the theme, and if we haven't got it, fine, we'll go again next week, but that's what we're going to keep trying to get right, because it's going to help us be better as a team.
We used to, I remember having a lot of discussion about this. Should you, your theme of the day, should you tell the players up front, this is what we're working on today? So if we're working on finding space, then you'd be up front with the players, this is what we're working on, finding space, and you could ask them questions around what does finding space mean for you, or blah, blah, blah. But we used to talk about this a lot, and I think at one point we were of the view we shouldn't tell them. Let them kind of work. Not at first. Let them work through and see if they can understand it and bring it into the session. But actually, a lot of the coaching I do now, I kind of introduce that topic right at the beginning to say this is what we're working on, and I start to ask some questions, and then it develops from there. I don't give them all the answers, but just making sure they know what we're working on and they understand the theme, basically.
Yeah.
What would be your kind of recommendation?
I would say share at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
And the outcomes of today, what we're looking for is this.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on what age group.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, if you have time to do a full session plan and you can send that around so that the players see the session before and they see the key learning outcomes, you know, at the right age.
Yeah.
You know, how much would that benefit them?
Yeah.
Because then they've got the detail of what it looks like. So
Yeah.
rather than drawing it up on a board and they get a few seconds to look at it, actually, if they're really engaged, they've got time to think about it beforehand.
I see the value in that, and I think it's a great way of going about it. I also see the value in not showing straight away. I quite like doing a game of some description, and then we'll play 5-10 minutes in the game with some constraints in it, and then we'll call the players in and have a chat about the game, and then say, what do you think we're working on today then? And then they kind of bring it out, okay, so you can then see the guys that are thinking and kind of getting the stuff, and to keep it interesting you could almost do both, couldn't you? It's not right or wrong answer. It's actually some weeks you could give it out up front, other weeks you could hold back a little bit, and it's a nice way to keep the session, the framework the same if you like, but keep it engaging in different ways.
Definitely. And it's your players, your environment, and what works for you,
and what works best for them, right?
Yeah. You might try one way,
yeah,
and actually I don't think that's worked.
And some themes might need maybe a bit more clarity up front. Other themes you could probably hold back a little bit and keep it players more confident around that area already. Maybe you can hold it back a little bit than other ones where actually it's going to be tricky. So we'll give some of the nuts and bolts first and work around it.
Yeah,
and it's interesting your point around sharing the session plan with the players. I've never really. I've heard people talk about it before, but I've never done it myself. I guess maybe
and parents
as well. Why not?
Yeah.
What kind of age would you think age groups you would do that with, Robbie?
Again, it's very difficult because it depends on what level they play at, what experience they've had as players.
But you'd hope the session plans would mirror the age anyway. I mean, it's a fair point, but as long as the session plan is relevant to the age group, there is not a reason why you couldn't do it with young age groups, is there really?
So would you share a session plan, the under 8s with the under 8s?
I would, but I'm laughing to myself because the main problem is I change it last minute. I'm giving it out, and I'll be thinking I'll have a player off sick or something in the morning, and you think. But I would, and I think actually because the session plan itself is relevant to the age group I've got, so it's not like I'm going to be embarrassed by what's in it detail-wise because it's relevant. I think the important thing is maybe what the theme is, what the coaching points, and what hopefully good will look like. What we're trying to get out of it, and I don't think you'd want to necessarily go into too much detail. You could almost have a parent one and do.
Well, interesting you say that because actually what it may do as coaches, sometimes we overcomplicate things.
Yeah, it makes keep it simple.
So it may actually be really clear then in terms of the language needs to be like this.
Yeah.
And therefore then the structure might,
The one challenge we do have with that is I do have individual bits, so I'd have notes about the players on it, usually with initials, but you'd have a little thing around if I'm doing a practice and I kind of know what one player might struggle with more than another player or need to work on or a challenge because they're particularly good at it, which I wouldn't be as comfortable sharing with the parents as much about other kids. So I think you have to be a bit careful about what your session looks like. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, but I don't see why you couldn't share the theme of the session, the coaching points, because that's for all the players, and why not?
Yeah. And I think again it's that reflective practice. So try it
and see how you get on.
What went well? Firstly, and then have a look at how should I do that again? Should I do it differently?
They're doing long ball again this week. What they're doing long ball again.
So keep it as far as you can.
Yeah. So you said planning is one thing. So I'll push for some more if that's the case. So one of the common themes that you kind of coach could probably improve on, generally speaking, is planning. What other things do you find?
I think then it's about being flexible in terms of their sessions and having the ability to reflect during sessions. So that may be behaviour of the players, engagement of the players, and identifying when it's time to move things on.
Yeah.
Do I need to challenge actually this group a little bit more?
Yeah.
Actually, is their behaviour because it's too difficult for this individual, and enabling them to self-reflect during a session to know when to move on to the next or when to challenge.
Yeah.
And then I suppose around that is then the interventions. And I suppose a quick win for me when I speak with the mentees is, before doing an intervention, who needs to know it? Is it an individual?
Yeah.
Is it a unit? Or is it 2 units? Or is it actually the whole team?
Mm-hmm.
And then that will, or should, give you an idea of which intervention to use. So it's an individual. Actually, I think this would be great for just a little flyby, set a little challenge or have a little discussion with one of the players. Or actually it's 2 or 3 players. Well, actually, I'm not going to stop it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pull those aside and let everything carry on and just have a chat with them. Or actually, I think 60% will benefit from this. I'm going to do an intervention where I stop, stand still and show.
Yeah, do you know what? I think interventions is the most interesting thing of coaching, and I imagine being a mentor, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you must see a lot of different practices, and I think the coach kind of has different approaches to interventions, but I think it's a really interesting topic, interventions, because I see a lot of coaches just using team interventions where they stop the whole practice, and they maybe only talk to one individual, but everyone has to listen, and you can see the rest of the
further
team.
away, don't you? So
Yeah,
you're drifting away.
yeah.
The
And they
fidget
just-
rate gets a bit higher the further away from the coach the player is.
I think the individual, like flyby, as you call it, is a great name for it. I think that's really underused in coaching. From sessions I've observed or sessions I've done myself, and I try to do a lot more flyby, but I think it's really underutilized, that type of intervention. And I know you're good at the individual intervention, and some of the things you do I think are very good actually. And I don't like to admit that, to be honest,
well,
but that is
Record that one. That is definitely staying.
Edit, you better edit that
That's
bit out
staying in
again.
100%. It's so true. And you can see interventions, can't you? They can kind of almost make or break a session. You can have a really good practice, but if you're intervening or with the wrong interventions, you can just kill the bounce of the session, and you can just ruin the players' engagement in it and stuff. But the right interventions can also just click it together and make it work even better. And I think maybe an experiencing again the whole step principle. I think you're talking about actually being able to make changes in the moment. Maybe it's a good session, but the space is slightly too small or slightly too big, or you've just kind of got one player that needs an extra constraint just to bring them back in line. Or I think having that ability to think in the moment rather than just throw the whole session out or the whole practice that you're doing and jump to the next thing. It's almost like you don't want to. Or persevere a little bit, just give it 5 minutes, because actually wait till they get it. It should be messy at first, but just bear with it and just watch. You go through the pain a little bit, and they'll get there. And it comes with I think with a bit of experience. But I would imagine having a mentor, if you weren't experienced or confident enough, that helps, because then you've got someone saying, don't relax, just roll with it a little bit and let's see how we get on there. And it might give you the opportunity then to be more comfortable in the time or making some small changes in which that session suddenly becomes a lot better, rather than reflecting at the end and thinking, actually, I'm going to throw it out and that was rubbish, spin that one and find some, reinvent the wheel again next week for something different.
And I think also around that is engaging the players. So actually involving them, giving them some ownership.
What could we do now to make it better?
Yeah.
What could we do to make
is this working?
Yeah.
And actually
they've got some cracking ideas, I bet. Even the under sixes would know, wouldn't they, how to make a game better if you asked them.
Is this size big enough? For you? Those types of questions. Actually having the confidence to do it.
Yeah. Do you know? I totally agree with that as well. I think I made a note here. Just put tone. I think you can sometimes do the wrong intervention, but actually it'll work still if you get if the messaging is right. Yeah. If you get the tone right, if it's positive still, maybe if you're asking questions, you're engaging the players, like you said. I think you can get away with using the wrong type of intervention if you get those things right, and eventually, if you keep stopping it, the players are going to get fed up. But I think you can get away with it as well. And I think the other thing is, which both of you have said, is experience. I think when you first start coaching, you're going to make mistakes, right? You're going to use the wrong intervention. You're going to be too long. You're going to have too many, perhaps, or you're not going to have enough. I think with experience, you're going to learn, and obviously having a mentor will help as well.
Yeah, but and all of those things are great.
Yeah,
because we need to, like we say with players. Yeah, we need to make lots of mistakes to be able to learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's also acknowledging that it's not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, the process is the key of the reflection of, well, what did go really well in that session?
Yeah.
And then how can I improve that for next time?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about successes then? On a more positive note, then, these are some of the things you often find could be improved: planning, being more flexible in the interventions. What do you see, and you're pleasantly surprised by quite regularly when you see coaches? Would you say?
So, lots, absolutely lots, and I think this is key for coaches, and that when they're starting on their journey, they've taken that role because they've been trusted to. Firstly, they've generally got a passion for football, which you can see the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They've generally got good mannerisms and good rapport with the players, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And the environment is generally really positive. Again, depending on where they are on their journey, there's loads of good
They're
stuff.
big
happening.
ones, aren't they? If you've got the passion, rapport, and the environment's quite right, you're in a good starting place, aren't you? Really, it's almost like fine tuning, then, isn't it, around that stuff?
Definitely. Yeah. In terms of then making it look like a game, engaging players. I think maybe where again, depending on their journey, it's the identification of the needs for the players.
Yep.
Knowledge they have, then they may need some assistance around what that looks like.
Yeah.
We'd like to encourage listeners to consider either becoming mentors or being a mentee and having someone mentor them. A bit of a sales pitch now, Robbie. Well, first of all, for mentees, then, if coach I think, actually, this sounds quite good and I'm up for the challenge, how would you sell it to them? What would you say from your experience of seeing people go through the process? If you had to kind of convince someone, what would you say?
Yeah. So there's lots of different forms of mentorship. It doesn't have to be. Obviously, there is a formal in terms of your local FA, and looking at that route. But there's probably some really good people that you respect, that you have already got some rapport with, that you could go and observe, you can go and learn from. And there's a lot of informal, like you two. You two probably mentor each other every day. When you pick
That's
up.
That's the problem. That's what we're going back.
We do talk a lot, actually.
When you find something, or you're planning, or you bounce ideas off each other.
It's so valuable. It really is. It just makes you think just a bit differently about something. Just a word can suddenly make you just change something or improve something tenfold. Just having that someone. And I think one of the dangers from Mark and I is with most things we're on the same page with, aren't we, around the football thing? And that can be get a bit complacent in some ways because it's almost like an echo chamber of the same ideas where actually also going to somebody that thinks with different is not always a bad thing either, just to see the different way of doing things. I think we're different enough that we still challenge each other a little bit, but it's also nice to go a little bit even more off piece and find someone with even kind of a more left or right wing view on stuff.
It makes you go one way or the other, right? You might think actually they got a fair point, and you actually think it's just totally don't agree, but
you want to get the balance right.
You definitely want different ideas.
I suppose that the benefits are definitely, it helps with reflection. It certainly helps in terms of identifying your strengths, which is a great thing, and then the support mechanism to develop together. So through the journey, you will improve your coaching for sure.
It's a good point that it hasn't got to be formal, has it? You literally can just find someone that has got a bit of time and wants can spend some time with, bounce ideas of each other and share thoughts and things. It can be that informal, really, and that's still mentorship.
And also it can fit into your journey, so it doesn't have to be every week. You could have say to another coach, look, I'm trying to develop myself. Would you be able to come and watch me? And maybe I'll come and watch you once every couple of months. And get some feedback that way.
How important do you think it is that during your coaching journey, if you really want to get better at what you do, that at some point you embrace the idea of having a mentor?
I think it's I think I can't speak highly enough of the process from a mentor. So if you've got some time spare and you can go and help others, I would say do it. Go and ask around, does anyone need any help in your clubs? Because you will benefit so much from that experience.
It's a good way to learn as well, isn't it?
Definitely. But also from the mentees aspect is, to go through the process, it might be uncomfortable at times because, your development.
It should be uncomfortable, right? Not in a bad way, but it should be uncomfortable. They should be out of their comfort zone a little bit. That's how you can really learn.
Yeah. But in a safe environment.
In a safe environment, absolutely.
Again, kind of like we do for, when we're coaching. making sure that we're stretching, but at the right times.
It's funny isn't it, how similar the coach's journey is to a player's journey. In different ways, isn't it? It's about kind of stretching yourself a little bit, being out of your comfort zone, but not too much. Challenge yourself, reflecting, reviewing. What can you do better? It's the same as what we ask players to do, isn't it? Really, it's no different.
Yeah,
absolutely. Look, I would really just reinforce what you said. I think from my experience of being a mentee, I think it was fantastic. It was really early in my kind of journey and our journey, right?
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. But also, I've had the opportunity, maybe not to maybe mentor someone formally, but I've had. In my role within the club, I get people asking me questions. What would you do here? How would you deal with this? And I kind of ask them questions back and try and get the information from them. Or if we're having a conversation, I say, look, have you tried this? Have you thought about this kind of thing? So I find it personally quite rewarding as on that side. So I definitely would echo what you're saying.
It's a win-win, isn't it? Because either you get to see things you wouldn't have seen otherwise, or you get to reinforce the stuff that you're already doing right. So you can't lose from it.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a couple of questions quickly. I think
we're
stretching
our
our
time
time
already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For you then, what does success look like as a mentor? Then what's the end game? What does it look like?
So the end game is their end game,
right?
Or their journey.
Yep.
So again, I couldn't say what it looks like because it's very much individual.
Yeah.
But success would be at the start of the journey. We've agreed, what success looks like, and then at the end of our journey together, we're there. We're there together. So, we've reached the SMART goals that we put together at the start.
And so when does your mentoring end of that particular individual? Obviously, I'd imagine you have a period as an FA mentor, but does it potentially carry on after that? Where does it kind of end for you?
Yeah. So formally, with the program, we're in for one season.
Yep.
And then we'll move on to another club.
Yep.
But there are still previous mentees that I still keep in contact with, and we'll have meet up and find out how the team's getting on. And
I was going to say beers
journey.
If we can. In case Kev's listening.
But yeah, so I think it just carries on.
Yeah.
Because you become, through that journey, you become friends as well, and trusted person, or trust each other, and respect each other's opinions.
The background noise because we're actually wrapping someone up in Christmas paper. So there you go. It's definitely Christmas season.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie, thank you so much for that. Is there anything we haven't asked you that you'd like us to ask you?
No, I think it's been really enjoyable. Obviously, discussing all things football, and obviously to the listeners, if you've got an interest, formally contact your local FA, but informally just get out there and try it, because that's what it's all about.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. You kindly let us come and see you, and it's a busy time of the year, so we're really, really grateful for that one. It's a great episode to finish for Christmas.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we'll be the new year when we do our next one.
It will be, 2020.
Yes, 2020.
New decade.
A new decade, yeah. Thanks to everyone who's contributed over this year. It's been a great year for us. We started in January of 2019, so it's it will be our 1 year birthday in January.
Yeah.
But
we do something special, really, shouldn't we?
We'll have to.
I don't know what.
We'll get the kids involved.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll get the kids on, talk to the players themselves.
Yeah.
But thanks everyone for your positive feedback. It's been brilliant. Please keep reaching out to us either through the email address, which is info@thesoccercoachingpodcast.com, or Scott or Mark at thesoccercoachingpodcast.com, or through Twitter, which is soccercoachcast. And if we don't speak to you beforehand or hear from you beforehand, we wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Cheers, guys.